No, not.
Who else is doing it? They do audio. Who does video?
Oh, you mean live streaming?
Yeah.
I know there's quite a few councillors that do.
We're now live, ladies and gentlemen, councillors. The meeting is reconvened. Where are we? 4.1 is undecided. I call for a motion. Councillor Brady? Oh, Councillor Simons.
I'd like to move along the lines of the recommendation. I'll move that pursuant to section 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Glamorgan Spring Bay Interim Planning Scheme of 2015, development application 2021/282 at RA1130 Dolphin Sands Road, Dolphin Sands, CT 54666/175, for the construction of a dwelling to be used for a visitor accommodation be approved with the following conditions. 1 through to condition 9, with condition 9 being that the AHD not exceed 8.9 metres, and also with the conditions and information and advice for assistance from A through to L as per the recommendation.
AHD, not, thank you, Councillor Bruni, not exceed.
It was Councillor Simons.
Oh, Councillor Simon, not exceed, how many metres?
8.9.
8.9 metres. Is there a seconder?
Excuse me, Mayor. Just a clarification from Councillor Simons. Are you referring to the roof of the building?
Talking about the datum level, the Australian datum level.
But the AHD 8 point refers to the roof.
Well, the existing AHD is 9.5
of the roof.
So so the building will need to lower.
Not the floor or the floor levels. Okay.
No.
All right, so AHD roof level, not exceed roof level. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bruni? Is there any discussion? All those in favour? Raise your hand. All against?
Sorry.
Point of order.
Sorry, yes, go on.
I'd just like to ask a question of our planner, will that cause council and the planning department any adverse situations by including that recommendation?
It may be best to amend the condition 1 for amended building plans. So building plans to be amended to show the reduced height.
So move 9 to part of condition 1.
Maybe do it as it can maybe condition 1A, amending the plans.
The plans be amended.
Well, Councillor Simons, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'll just read it to Tasman.
So our minute secretary can get it all typed up beautifully.
So along the lines of 1A, that the building plans be amended to reflect an AHD not exceeding 8.9 metres.
AHD roof level not exceeding 9.
Well, the AHD is a datum level. It doesn't relate to any
All right, okay.
roof. It's the structure won't be able to come up above that height.
All right, I accept your better knowledge than mine. Being a builder.
Advice to you, Mr Mayor, from the
That's right.
Director of Planning, in regards to whether we can actually amend the original motion. The planning report.
You
Would-
can, but it's more so the fact that if, because Councillor Simon's motion was seconded, we're just now changing
Yeah,
his original motion.
yeah.
So the seconder
That's fine.
needs to agree?
Who was the second? I can't remember.
Keith, Councillor Brennan.
Yeah, I'd like to, well, yeah, I'll do that. So I'll move an amendment to the motion to reflect that change at 1A.
Need a seconder? All those in favour?
Yep.
Against?
The amendment.
Of the
Carried.
amendment?
That's the amendment. Now we've got the amended motion before us. All those in favour of the amended motion with the 8.9?
Excuse me, Mayor, point of order. I'm just wondering whether or not we need to explain, for the purposes of any challenge to our decision, as to why we've changed the motion.
It would be very handy if someone said something about that so it's on record. If you want to say it, Councillor Browning.
I'd prefer the mover of the motion to do that.
Councillor Simon.
So just to speak to the motion, the change to the original planning recommendation is to do with the uneasiness of the height and the bulk and the visual size of that building in that landscape. And as a adjustment to that, a lowering of the building may help with that.
Councillor Browning has seconded. Do you wish to say anything?
No.
I put the motion unless someone wants to say anything else. All those in favour raise their hand. Against? Please note, Councillor Churchill voted against, all the rest are in favour. I declare the motion carried. Thank you for that, not an easy matter to consider. Thank you, Mr Bonner, for putting up with all that. It seems to me there's a defect in the Land Use and Planning Approvals Act. Now, I need a motion that council now ceases to act as a planning authority. Can I have a motion?
Please.
Or do I just do it?
Yes.
Oh, Councillor Browning.
I'd like to move that council no longer acts as a planning authority at 4:27.
Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Simon. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much for that, Joy. Item 5, financial reports. We have a report. I need a motion. Councillor Churchill.
I move that council receives and notes the financial reports as attached to this report for the period ended 31st of October 2021.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Browning. All in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 6 is section 24 committee. Tribunal Recreation Ground. Can I have a motion? Councillor Browning.
I move that the minutes of the Tribunal Recreation Ground Committee meeting held on the 20th of July 2021 be received and noted.
Seconder. Councillor Browning. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 6.2, Seafarers Memorial Committee meeting. Can I have a motion? Yes, Councillor Browning.
I move that the minutes of the Tasmanian Seafarers Memorial Committee meeting held on the 11th of October 2021 be received and noted.
Seconder. Councillor Browning. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. There's a report, 7.1, from the Director of Works. Can I have a motion? Councillor Simons, it's page 43.
That council notes the information.
Can I have a seconder? Councillor Arnold?
Yeah.
All those in favour? Against? Carried, noted. Councillor Brenny was left the room. Next item is item 6, officers' report. Require. You all right? Am I going too quickly?
Item 8.
Yes, item 8, officers' report requiring a decision.
Oh, Keith's good. Sorry,
Councillor
Councillor.
Brenny's still outside.
Yes, I better get him back in, I suppose.
Get out ways.
Yeah, he said that, yeah.
Well-
7.1 and I've moved.
Yeah, he might have gone out for some other reason. Call him back in and ask him.
Yeah, I think it was 7.1
7.1 was the reason
was the reason, yeah.
it passed. Thank you, councillor Brenny. Back in the room. Item 8, officers' report requiring a decision. Small grant application, Orford Primary School. Can I have a motion? Thank you, councillor Simons. A second,
I
sorry.
move that the council approve the association, the application for small grant funding of $1,000 for the Orford Primary School Association.
Second, councillor Brenny. All those in favour? Against, carried unanimously. Now, item 8.2, we've got a problem with this, as I understand it. It doesn't comply with the council's requirements, and it's got I think it's a very noteworthy thing, but it's got also a common sense problem. It's an application for a small grant. It seems to be a worthy thing, but Westman's Beach Surf Lifesaving Club is not incorporated. It's not a person, and it's a nothing. We might know where the thing's cited, but we can't give money to a non-legal personality. What do we do about that?
I'm not sure.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think we just need to make ourselves aware of the eligibility criteria around it. So the criteria for small community grant talks about them being a not-for-profit entity, organisation, which would be the case here. And other than that, other eligibilities around projects should address relevant community issues of significance, be initiated within the community and actively involve local people, and improve access and encourage wider use of facilities. So that's directly out of the small grant.
If I may,
Yes, yes, please.
Raspberries Beach Surf Lifesaving Club is supported by Surf Lifesaving Tasmania, or significantly supported by Surf Lifesaving Tasmania. So it's a program that they're running through that organisation.
It sounds like a worthy cause,
It
but
is.
the difficulty
It's a very
is-
worthy course.
I
They
was
had
a surf life-saving member myself.
they had a large number of participants in previous years, and I think it's very worthy of a grant application.
Right, look, I'm sure it is, but the difficulty is, to whom do we give the cheque?
Tasmanian Surf Lifesaving Club or organisation.
May well be.
Well, it needs to be a thing to which to send the cheque. That's the problem. Now, if we could put someone's name to that, Mr. Smith as secretary of, then that'll be an unincorporated association and it'll work. But you can't send it to just a name that doesn't physically have a legal capacity. Doesn't have a bank account, couldn't open a bank account, doesn't exist at law. That's the problem in it. Not I'm against, I like people to learn how to swim, preferably in warm water, but better in some water than none at all.
Through
I'm
the
happy
mayor.
to move. Sorry, councillor Brand.
Well,
you go.
I'm just, maybe a solution
Yes, please.
is, could the money be given to Erdo, and then Erdo,
Who's Erdo?
East Coast Regional Development, and they hold funds for lots of organisations
But
that aren't
if
incorporated.
I may,
Yeah,
Mayor,
please.
my understanding that is they do have a bank account.
Well, there must be someone who signs it,
Yes.
and someone
Because
deposits the money and someone who signs a cheque when they withdraw it.
Because the little nippers actually pay a registration fee. They
They
have
must
to,
pay it to someone.
they have
Who?
to pay a registration fee, so
Who? That's the
I
thing.
I
suspect,
think it's just Surf Life Saving Tasmania.
yeah.
Well, I'd be happy that it be limited to surf life saving Tasmania for the purposes of teaching little nippers to swim at Rathmans Beach or something like that. But it doesn't exist. That's the problem. It's not being pedantic. It's a fact. You give it a secretary of the Hobart Surf Club or the Hobart Surf Life Saving Club, or Bill Smith as secretary for the Rathmans Beach Surf Life Saving Club. We don't know who he is, you see, that's the problem. Yes,
No,
Councillor Simon.
I'm happy to move a recommendation along the lines that I'll move that the council approve the application for the small grant funding of $1,000 to be paid to Surf Life Saving Tasmania for the purposes outlined in the grant application submitted by Rathmans Beach Surf Life Saving Club.
Could I have a seconder?
Yes.
just on,
Yeah, well, first of all, Councillor Arnold, you seconded?
Yes.
Now, would you like to speak to it, Councillor Simon?
Well, I know it can be paid directly to Surf Life Saving Tas, and they'll use it to pay the instructor, so it really will just save Rathmans Beach paying Surf
Thank
Life
you.
Tas.
Councillor Brenner, you wish to say something?
yes, I noticed that the supporting documentation for the grants is signed presumably by a representative of Melissa Quinn, and I wonder whether or not the cheque can be paid to that.
Well, I think that we've got a motion before us. Surf Life Saving Tasmania does exist, has existed since
Yeah, no, it's not Melissa.
for many, many years.
I think you're looking at the wrong one.
Carolyn Lamont's the committee member.
Tribunna District School,
Yeah.
sorry about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, is there any other discussion? I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. It's not being semantic about existence. It is an important thing. Item 8.3, Community Grant, Tribunna School District Association. Can I have a motion? Councillor Churchill.
I move that council approve the application for a small grant funding of $1,000 for the Tribunna District School Association.
Can I have a seconder? Councillor Browning. Any discussion? All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. We're making time, ladies and gentlemen, making time. And there's a recommendation, Gordon Street Boat Ramp, Swansea. Is there a recommendation? Is there a motion? Councillor Browning, did you put your hand up or not?
Councillor Arnold.
All right. Yes, Councillor Arnold.
I'll move that Council 1 approve the modification and repair works to go ahead at the Swansea Gordon Street boat ramp, and 2, does not accept liability for any damage to vessels using the Gordon Street boat ramp, and 3, does not accept responsibility for any hazard caused or for the removal of any rocks or other materials that may be displaced at the Gordon Street rock drawing facility, and 4, informs Marine and Safety Tasmania in writing of the above decision of Council.
Well, I've got a problem with that motion, and I think there's a problem in the way it's worded.
And then
Oh, yes, I understand. All right, is there a seconder? Councillor Simons. The problem about the way this motion is worded, it is dependent upon an assumption that's wrong, that we exercise dominion over the boat ramp, which we don't. And if we pass a motion saying we exercise dominion, if something happens, no matter what our comment is about liability, it'll have no effect to prevent us being liable. But if we had, for instance, a motion saying that council does not object to the repair works, etc., carried out by mast, and the rest of it would all work and do the same thing, but wouldn't be exercising dominion. And having done these sorts of things many a time over nearly 50 years, you search around to try and find someone to sue when someone gets injured. And I think there's a difficulty in that motion. I've got nothing else to say about it. Anyone want to speak on or for or against the motion?
Excuse me, clarification, Mayor. What was the modification you were saying?
Does not object to
The modification and
repair works to
Thank
go
you.
ahead at Swansea, etc. It'll give the same thing, but it doesn't mean to say
I know what it
we,
means.
we exercise dominion over it.
I understand.
That means control on some form of ownership. Once you do that, you've got round the neck.
Through you, Mr Mayor, can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
Council does own this facility and it owns all the other boat ramps in the municipality.
Excuse
we-
me,
we-
it's not a factual. It's not correct when it comes to the boat ramp that's been built by mast that gets covered with sand.
So that boat ramp hasn't got a lease over it at the moment, Mr Mayor, as you're aware, so
hasn't,
it doesn't cover that one, correct. But every other one it does, and council just recently, as in last year, adopted its marine infrastructure asset management plan, which includes all these boat ramps, and clearly lays out our responsibilities under the various legislation in regards to maritime infrastructure. We can't get away from the fact that we are responsible for the maintenance of that ramp. The reason why those additional conditions were put in the recommendation around not accepting responsibility for the dislodged rock particularly is because, as council is probably aware, the Gordon Street boat ramp hasn't been constructed to any specific engineering standard, and there is a tendency for some loose boulders to become dislodged over time. This proposed works by mast is an improvement to the facility in terms of people being able to use it. So where there is some safety issues and where there is some usability issues right now, this work proposes to address that. But council cannot get away from the fact that it has ownership of 16 or 15 boat ramps throughout the municipality. Just like the wharf down here at Tribunna, we operate and maintain under a lease.
Thank you, General Manager. Whether or not in that motion, items 2 and 3 are passed or not passed, that won't prevent us being liable if someone gets injured and they want to sue someone. That's the risk of it. Councillor Bruni, you wish to say something?
You mentioned something about sand at the boat ramp. This isn't.
In Swansea. This is different. Gordon Street's different.
Yeah, this
to
is
Swansea.
different.
I understand.
Yeah.
Councillor Churchill.
I just wanted to make the point that I've spoken with Mr. Colbarney, who is one of its senior people in the volunteer rescue.
Rescue, yes.
In the volunteer marine rescue, and he has expressed the view that they really desperately need the availability of this facility at the moment because of the issues with the large boat ramp and their concerns around having an emergency out there where they're going to have trouble launching their boats. So they would really appreciate this work being done on the Gordon Street jetty.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to say anything? Councillor Bruni again.
Yes, Mayor. What I think you're referring to in your suggested alteration is that no matter what we say, unless we say it a different way, and if we and based on what the general manager is saying, this boat ramp is council's boat ramp, and it has a lease over it, I believe, or a licence over it, which I wasn't aware of, and therefore there is no escaping the fact that we, regardless of what happens there, are liable for what happens there. And although we may not be able to control what happens there, it would be, in my opinion, any improvement to the safety of it, which this proposal does bring forward, would reduce our liability anyway. Saying anything to the contrary probably won't make any difference.
Thank you for your opinion, Councillor Breening. Let's hope the work is properly done. All those in favour of the motion? Against? Carried with the mayor voting against. Not because I don't think it's a good idea, but someone else doing work on our property will cop it, and they haven't been good in doing some of the things in the past. Next item is item 8.5, DSRA endemic. Is endemic a disease? Display gardens. Can I have a motion?
Pandemic.
Yes, Councillor Churchill.
Yes, I'll move that council supports the proposal of the DSRA, and through the General Manager and Council's Biodiversity Officer provide guidance and direction as necessary to bring the project deliverables to fruition. The work is to be carried out with minimal disturbance to existing native vegetation.
Is there a second then? Councillor Simon. Councillor Churchill, would you like to speak to the matter?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mayor. Look, I really appreciate what's attempting to be done here by the DSRA, and I really hope that they're successful in doing that. The area that they've chosen to do this work on, though, has its own special biodiversity values. If you were to try to find somewhere else in that Dolphin Sands area with such a good distribution of native species and absence of weeds, you couldn't have found a better place than this. So I guess my concerns are just around the destruction of existing native plants to plant other native plants. And if that can be done, and I'm sure it can be done, into land that is perhaps now bare, I'd hate to see the removal of a whole lot of native plants, endemic native plants that are there, for this to occur. It has been suggested that POA is removed to replace...
POA?
POA is a native endemic species.
Oh, I see.
It's a grass, and it's been suggested somewhere in the literature that perhaps that would be removed to do some of the planting of these other species, which I have no objection to the other species being planted. I just think there's a way to do this that could be done to really enhance the area and not to destroy existing native endemic vegetation. Thank you.
Any other comment from anyone? I just asked the question, do we have the skills, do we have the time, and do we have the money to adequately supervise?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we have, and as Councillor Churchill has suggested in the recommendation, our biodiversity officer would be the appropriate person. Have already spoken to them. They themselves are quite supportive of the initiative, and I think there are some valid matters that we need to take into account, and Councillor Churchill will certainly raise one of them about removing existing native or endemic species. But there's other things too that we will just work with the DSRA on to ensure we achieve the best outcome here from an environmental perspective, because this is what this is about. It's not about beautification. It's not about formalised garden beds. It's not even about importing gravel into a sand dune environment that perhaps has been suggested. We want to work with the association to ensure that we achieve the best outcomes, environmental outcomes, and we've got the skills on board to do that.
Thank you very much, General Manager. I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 8.6, multiple road failures, and do I have a motion? Yes, Councillor Bruni.
Excuse me, Mayor. I vacated the room on 7.1 on the misunderstanding that this item was 7.1.
Would you like to vacate the room now?
I'd like to declare an interest, yes, and if I can do that at this stage, I presume I
Well,
can.
you can.
Thank you.
Item 8.6, multiple road failures. Is there a motion? Councillor Brown.
I move that council redistribute funds within the LRCIP grant round 3 to allocate $301,174 to pavement renewal and sealing works on Charles Street, Orford, Elmer Road, Orford, and Nugent Road, Buckland. $35,000 to cricket practice nets at Swansea, $15,000 to a shelter at the Tribunna Marina, and increases to the allocation for Swansea Courthouse to $75,000, and decrease the allocation of salt works to fund a toilet block for $100,000.
Is there a second? Councillor Simons. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Through the Mayor, I think that what's been given to us in the information from Mr Porsche's speaks for itself.
Anyone else have anything to say? Yes, Councillor Arnold.
Thank you. I just want to make one point. As long as we don't end up losing, for want of a better word, the toilet at Salt Works, I'll support the change, because the reality is the toilet at the Salt Works has been on the agenda for a very long time. Without it, it's created a significant risk to the many aquaculture jobs that's in that area and the future sustainability of the industry, and that toilet has to stay in the budgeting.
Well, I did wonder about that very question. It did remind me of as a 7-year-old going down to our local shack where I used to have to dig the hole for the long drop.
Point of order, Mr Mayor, please.
So that I think it's important, if a toilet works, that it should be put there. Otherwise, I've got nothing else to say. Yes, Councillor Simons.
I was through you, Mr Mayor, just a question to Mr Port. With that reduction in the original budget for the Saltworks toilet and car park, there was $245, and are we not doing the car parking works and just the toilet this time around with the new?
That's correct. The original proposal for the car park was in a location that has turned out to be not appropriate with Aboriginal heritage, and a different location was proposed which can't be done for the money. So the intent is to continue go forward with the toilet block only.
Yep.
At this stage.
Thank you.
Councillor Churchill, you wish to say something?
That was my question too, thank you.
All those in favour of the motion? Against? Carried unanimously with Councillor Bruni noted me out of the room. Thank you, Councillor Bruni. Councillor Bruni, the motion was passed. 8.7 financial plan consultation process. Do I have a motion? Yes, Councillor Arnold.
Thank you. I'll move that council notes the information.
Is there a second? Councillor Simons. All those in favour?
But I just...
I'm sorry, yes. Please speak to it.
No, I don't necessarily need to speak to it in any great detail. I just would like to thank the director involved in this provision of this information for the comprehensive report that's been done. It's made it very easy to understand where we're headed. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 9, there are no notices of motion. Item 10, there are no petitions. Item 11, there are no questions from councillors. Item 11.3, questions without notice. They're on the agenda, the responses on the agenda. I don't propose to read out the questions and the answers. Want to say something, Councillor Simon? Councillor Arnold?
I don't have any questions without notice in my agenda.
Okay.
I think, sorry, Mr Mayor, I think you missed out 11.1, there are no questions on notice, but 11.2, there may well be questions.
Oh, questions without notice. I'm sorry about that. Questions without notice by councillors. There are none. I got 11.3, questions without notice by councillors taken on notice, 26th October.
Mr Mayor, you need to ask the councillors whether they have got any questions.
Well, I stand corrected. Have you any questions to ask councillors? No. 11.3, questions without notice by councillors taken on notice. They are in the agenda. The answer is in the agenda. Well, I just don't quite know how to deal with item 12, confidential items. I don't think we have any confidential
Yes, we do.
agenda, do we?
Yes.
We do we? Yes, I asked, is there a motion? Yes, please, Councillor Rennie.
I move that council moves into closed session at 4:56.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Simon. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Found out from our administrative assistant Jasmine Murray